And so next off, I would like to present to you a fireside chat that we have with the title, Press Play, How iFlix Can Conquer Digital Video Streaming in Emerging Markets. And I would like to welcome Patrick Grove, founder and chairman of Catcher Group, and John Balea, Southeast Asia editor of Tech in Asia. Welcome, Patrick and John.
How you doing?
How are you doing today?
Good.
Hi guys, how are you doing? Good? Hungry? Sleepy? No? So Patrick, can you tell them more about yourself? Why are you here?
More about myself. Okay. Taurus. I like long walks on the beach. Okay. More about myself. So I'm a diehard internet entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur in Southeast Asia for the last 16 years. I fundamentally believe that if there ever was a point in time to be an entrepreneur, in the last 10,000 years of human civilization, this is really the greatest time ever to be an entrepreneur because A, the costs of launching a business are getting cheaper and cheaper every year. Secondly, the global opportunities that you have in front of you are absolutely phenomenal. You now have a device like this, which is sitting in the pocket or the hands of 2 billion people every day and growing, and anyone in this room can launch an app or a service that has the potential to be used by every single one of those individuals immediately. So I think it's, we're really living in a really beautiful time where the opportunity to build great, scalable, sizable digital businesses is phenomenal.
And that's what you're doing with iFlix, right?
That's what we hope to do.
So let's jump right into it. It's hot
Okay.
right now. The battle between iFlix and Netflix. Is it even a battle? In your previous interviews,
Yep.
you would always say that you don't consider Netflix as a direct competitor. Now that they've launched in 130 countries, additional countries, and that includes Asia, do you see them differently now?
No, so we don't see them as a competitor at all, and I'll reference a few points. So number one, we believe that most internet business models have a winner-takes-all dynamic, and the end state is a winner-takes-all equilibrium. Whereas we believe in a world where one platform doesn't have all of the supply of the world, then it never is a winner-takes-all equilibrium. So when you look at, say, something like Netflix, they have anywhere from 3,000 to 10,000 hours of content at any one time. The universe of professionally produced video content, so I'm not talking about what you see on YouTube, which is kind of borderline amateur stroke professional. I'm talking about professionally produced content, great video and TV shows. The universe of content is about 500,000 hours globally. I'm adding up American content, Japanese content, Chinese content, Korean content, Malaysian, Singaporean, Indonesian, Filipino, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So when one player has a fraction of what is out there, then it never becomes A versus B or B versus C. It becomes a world where we believe many players will exist, many players will differentiate themselves on very different particular product segments. And you look at the media world in general. How many radio stations are there? There isn't one, there's thousands. How many TV stations is there? There isn't one, there's thousands. Look at cable TV, right? We all sit there and flip through cable channels. There isn't one cable channel, there's hundreds and hundreds of cable channels. Even if you drill deep into a particular vertical like news, right? If you have a cable subscription in any country in the world, you can probably choose between 10 news channels that all tell you the same thing in a different language or different spin. So I guess the point we're saying is that we don't see it as A versus B. We think that fundamentally the world is shifting and that people will no longer want content on a linear schedule. So what we mean by that is that if you think back to 20 years ago when we were all kids, you would rush home to watch your favorite TV show on Friday night at 8 p.m. That is the linear TV world. There's a fixed schedule. One show's at 8 p.m., another show's at 9 p.m. That world increasingly doesn't exist anymore. No one rushes home to watch a TV show, and then you rush home and you think, oh shit, I'm 5 minutes late. I missed the beginning of my show. This just doesn't happen anymore. So we think it becomes a anytime, anywhere, any device, anything world. And because there's just so much content out there, we think there's lots of rooms for different operators with different niches. Now, the metric that we see is that, I'll give you an example. In Malaysia, we were averaging about 10,000 signups a day in Malaysia. The day that Netflix launched globally, and there was all this PR, so what is OTT, what is SVOD, what is getting movies on TV shows on demand, it actually educated the audience at large. And now in Malaysia, we're averaging 17 to 20,000 daily signups with no increase in marketing. So kind of, the more players that enter the market are lifting the environment as a whole.
So are you saying that you supplement or complement each other? Like subscribers would be subscribing to both Netflix
So
and
what we think is when we look at, so iFlix will probably never be targeted at anyone in this room. We really are targeting, we don't focus on Singapore, we focus on the emerging world. We focus on countries where GDP per capita is below 10,000 US dollars a year. We focus on countries where there's a strong preference for local language content. So, and then as a result, we have a very different price point. Our price point is about 2 to 3 US a month. So we see a world where, yes, if you live in an emerging market, but you're in the upper socioeconomic class of that market, you'll have Netflix, you'll have HBO, you'll have Hulu, and you'll have iFlix. And that's if you're the top 5% within that particular country. If you're everyone else in that country, English is not your first language of communication. $10 US a month might seem a lot.
You're using prepaid phone.
And you're using a prepaid phone, which is 90% of the population in most of these markets, then we think iFlix is that proposition for everyone else in those markets.
Okay, that's interesting. But so you're saying that Netflix right now is targeting the affluent consumers, that because of the price points.
Yep.
Let's say, for the sake of argument, that they really want to capture most of Southeast Asia.
Yep.
And they stalk you. They follow each and every step you do. They hire local teams. They build local content. How are you gonna stay ahead? What's your game plan?
Correct. So number one, they are doing a lot of that. Number two, it's just a fundamental belief that being on ground, executing faster, and just running, at 1,000 miles per hour is what wins the day. We believed in these emerging markets that more often than not, it's not about innovation that wins the battle, it's about rapid execution that wins the battle. And I think we've fought or dealt with enough challenges over the years with global players where, we come from a world where if we run super fast, build an awesome team, have a great strategy, but also accept that we're iterating daily on our business, we're pivoting daily, we're changing this, we're changing that, we're responding to local nuances, responding to local channels. I'll give you an example. Everything you see in iFlix, Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand, is translated into the local language. We have some of the same shows at Netflix. They haven't translated it into the 140 countries that they're in. We know, that just takes time. We have 100 people in our office right now translating. It takes a lot of time. So to your point earlier, it's just moving faster, moving quicker. And at the end of the day, they have a very different proposition. They really are targeting an affluent, global, living room-based audience at $10 US a month. We're targeting an emerging market, mass market, mobile phone-orientated audience willing to pay $2 to $3 a month. So you'll start to see over time that they are very different products.
Okay, so Netflix is producing its own content.
Correct.
Do you plan on doing the same thing? Is that on the cards for you?
Completely. And it's we believe that it's important to have great content from all over the world. We believe it's important to have great local content from local partners, and at the same time, we believe it'll be important for us to produce our own shows domestically as well.
Okay. And you recently raised money from Rupert Murdoch's Sky. What are you going to do with the money?
Print T-shirts that say iFlix, so we get free branding at events like this. No, so we just raised 50 million US from Sky. Basically we're getting out there and building the business. I mean, to the point we're executing as fast as we can. We've realized if you want to build a great business, you just have to run at 1,000 miles an hour, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Are you going to new markets? Are you planning on? I mean, you've said before that iFlix is aiming to be a truly global company. So, what steps are you taking towards that?
So I'm on a plane tomorrow night to fly around the world and really push the iFlix agenda. But we have this crazy big goal where you look at the number of people in emerging markets globally that have a smartphone or will have a smartphone in the next 5 years, and we see that as a 2 billion addressable audience, and we don't think that audience wants a Western skewed $10 US a month product. We really don't think that's what they want. And our preliminary insights from the markets that we're in is showing us that while some people might want that product, the rest of the market don't. So we think that over the next several years, there's a multi-billion-dollar user opportunity for someone in the world to build a great platform to showcase the best global, regional, and local TV and video content at a price point that makes sense for people. And our crazy goal is to be that player.
Okay. So, how big is the video streaming market? How big is it exactly?
How big is it?
Yeah.
It's okay. Raise your hand if you've watched YouTube in the last 7 days. That's how big the streaming market is. Absolutely huge. It is. That's just YouTube. Raise your hand if you've watched a video deliberately or accidentally on Facebook in the last 7 days. Right? So we see this world where streaming video is. I mean, right now it's a buzzword, but we think it becomes in the next 24 months. It's not a niche thing. It's not a by the way thing. It's not a some people thing. It's an everyone thing. Everybody will watch video through their phone, through their iPad, through their whatever device. They all watch video. Whether it'll be amateur videos, whether it'll be quasi-amateur videos, whether it'll be professionally produced content that costs $100 million to make, we think everyone in this room will be watching video through the internet. So in terms of streaming, that for us is the streaming world.
Okay, fair enough. I'd like to go back on two
Sure.
things. A while ago, I asked you which markets you're entering next, so maybe you can share some info on that. And then next is you raised 45 million from Sky, right? That's only a third of the 150 million that TechCrunch earlier reported that you're targeting to raise. Is that true? You're targeting to raise 150 million?
No, I love TechCrunch. We work with them very well, and we only wanted to raise 50 million. So
Okay.
I'm not sure where they got that figure from.
All right.
Yeah.
In terms of markets, which ones are you eyeing to?
So, I mean, ASEAN is obviously paramount for us right now, and we have teams working on that right now. When you look at emerging markets globally, where we think there's a huge opportunity, we love Africa, we love Middle East, we love Eastern Europe, we love Central America. I mean, and pretty much every region of the world where GDP per capita is, say, 10,000 US and below, we believe that there is a huge opportunity for a product like ours.
Okay. So you've handled so many companies before. How different is iFlix than the rest of them?
Very, it's the funny thing is that we've now been internet entrepreneurs since 1999. So it's like we're old in this industry, and this is probably the most challenging business that we've ever been involved in. And just to give you a little bit of the insights. I mean, some of our other businesses are property classifieds or car classifieds. And you know, those marketplaces are relatively simple businesses. You have a platform, you build a brand, you do SEO, you do SEM, you do online marketing to get people to come to your platform, and the users upload the content to the platform. If you want to sell your house, we don't have anything to do with you. We just give you access to the platform. You put it on. The interesting thing with iFlix is, unlike YouTube, where anyone in this room can upload anything to the platform, is because we're curating what's on the platform, you know, we have to work with every individual studio or supplier to license their content. So that's 90 live content relationships in Southeast Asia alone, where we're working with them. And then what happens is, say you get the content, sometimes it's translated, sometimes it isn't. When it isn't, we have to put it in Tagalog. We have to add our most requested feature is to actually put English subtitles of a show already in English. So what you're finding a lot of times is people are probably 80% comfortable with English, but want the English subtitles as well. So then we have to add English subtitles, we have to add Thai subtitles, we have to add Chinese, you know, say in Malaysia where there's 4 national languages, it's not impossible, but there's a lot of behind the scenes work that I think people don't realize that our great teams are doing on a daily basis to get that content to you in a beautiful way. So I guess what we're saying is that on the outside, we spend a lot of money, and a lot of time, and a lot of effort getting people to try to use the service. Behind the scenes, they're spending a lot of effort, a lot of time, and a lot of money building relationships with content producers or content owners to get content on the platform, and then we're encoding it. We're dropping it locally in local servers so that it's delivered to you really fast. Whereas in the other world of online car classifieds or real estate classifieds, we just provide the platform, and the users do all the work. So it's a very complicated business.
Okay, so you talked about your other businesses. Let's go to iProperty,
Sure.
because you've recently sold it for a whopping 534 million. Is that right? Is that figure right? So I'm sure everyone's curious. How did you do that? How did you manage to sell it at 38? I don't know, maybe nearly 40 times its revenue. That's what I heard. So.
Yep. So, okay, how did we sell it? What a question. So, to give it a context, so iProperty is a business that we started getting involved with in 2006, and there was a change of control. So just to clarify, we actually still are shareholders in iProperty and will be for the next 2 years. But there was a change of control transaction a couple of months ago. So, I mean, that's 10 years. This is a business that, you know, we have been giving our heart and soul to for the last 10 years. You know, and you know, great businesses don't get built overnight. It takes blood, sweat, and a lot of tears to build great, sizable businesses. But I mean, the shortest way to answer that question is the major shareholder of that business is a company called realestate.com.au. They are a subsidiary of News Corp. They had been a shareholder of the business with us for the preceding sort of 18 months. So it became one of those situations where we were a major shareholder, they were a major shareholder, and then stock market investors were the balance of the shareholders. They were getting increasingly more and more comfortable with the business. They saw that Asia, and this is good for everyone here, I mean, Asia is one of the fastest growing regions in the world to build an internet business. You know, one of the things that we can't discount is, and I keep referring back to the smartphone, is that the number of people in Southeast Asia with a smartphone today is greater than the number of people in America with a smartphone. So when you look at building sizable businesses, your total addressable audience in Southeast Asia is today bigger than all of America.
How big is that exactly?
So there's about 280 million people with
now.
smartphones in Southeast Asia today. That is a number growing by about 2 million every month. So, so I think when, you know, we already had a friendly shareholder, and basically the conversation was, look, why don't we build this business together? We don't need to have all these public shareholders. And we said, well, we're comfortable with our position. And so they decided to make an offer to buy out all the other shareholders in the business, and that is essentially what happened.
Okay, so let's go to Catch a Group.
Sure.
So I'm jumping from one topic to another. So you've most of your businesses have gone, have IPO'd, right? iProperty, iCar,
A few more. Yeah.
Rev
Yep.
Asia.
I'm seeing if you remember the names.
Yeah, I think there's four. And Sogo.
Yep. Okay.
So, what's your philosophy on exits? Like, what's the strategy?
Okay. So number one, we don't have a philosophy
There's no playbook.
on exits.
No.
So I mean, yes, we have out of sort of the 7 or 8 companies in our portfolio, 4 of them we've taken public. So just to clarify, the IPO for us is never an exit. It is simply, you can choose between raising a Series A or Series B and raise $10 to $50 million, or you can just go straight for an IPO. Historically, we've chosen the IPO as a substitute for a Series A
So
or a
it's more
Series
of
B.
financing.
For us, it's really a step in the journey to building the business. I think if you look today in Southeast Asia, I think if you walk down this corridor and try to get to the restroom at the end of this event, you'll bump into about 20 VCs during that path. 3 years ago, if you tried to do that, you'd bump into 5 VCs. So there just wasn't the volume of venture capitalists and angel investors interested in internet businesses. So for us, the IPO ended up being a plan B to raise a Series A or a Series B. So just to clarify, the IPO was never an exit. It really was just a form of funding for us. In terms of what do we think about in terms of exiting businesses, we never think of exiting. We have a fundamental rule that, okay, here's an interesting way to look at it. The greatest financial investor in the last 50 years has been Warren Buffett. He has been able to compound money at anywhere between 25 to 30% per annum. So that's if you are the Warren Buffett of investing, you're going to make money at 25 to 30% per annum. Our fundamental view is that if we're involved in a business that's growing at 50% a year and above, why would you ever no longer want to be part of that business? Because even if you were to give Warren Buffett your money, he would only grow it at 25% a year. So our fundamental philosophy is that when you have your target market or your total addressable market growing at anywhere from 20 to 100% year on year, you believe you build a great business, you believe you have great teams working with you to build those businesses, we believe that as long as you're riding this phenomenal wave, which is the digital revolution in the emerging markets globally, why would you ever want to sell a business? Because there's nothing better that you can do with your time or your money in the non-digital world. So our fundamental philosophy is we don't have an exit philosophy. Our rule is if a business is still growing at 50% a year, we would be honored to be part of that business.
Okay, so over the years, while you're growing your key businesses, you've acquired, invested in, merged dozens of companies. So, what's your M&A strategy? I mean, do you have a checklist as to?
We just buy anything.
So let's go there.
Okay. So we've probably done about anywhere from 30 to 40 sort of M&A related transactions in the last 10 years. So our starting thesis is if there's a category that we like, that's the starting point. So we love marketplaces, we love classifieds, we love subscription video on demand. So when we enter a category and we like that category, we're very, very big believers in going regional very quickly, and we're very big believers in getting scale as fast as possible. We're not big believers in, well, I'll spend year one, and we hear this a lot, and it's just not a strategy that works for us and our DNA. I'll do Singapore in year one, I'll do Indonesia in year two, and everything goes well, I'll do Thailand in year three. It's just not the way we think. The way we think is really you should launch all of those countries within 30 days of launching. So when you start with the premise of get scale as fast as possible, then there's 2 ways to do that. One way is to grow organically, and one way is to merge and or acquire with people who already have market share that you need. So yes, we do grow organically, and it is a core component of our strategy, but at the same time is if we can find players with a similar vision and that have market share that we believe together would allow us to be bigger, better, faster than that company is in the universe of people that we would want to talk to.
Do you think the future for Southeast Asia, is it IPO or M&A?
Is it IPO or M&A?
M&As, yeah.
I think it's all of the above. I think the fundamental thing is the number one thing to start with, and the way we start with is what is the problem that we're trying to solve? You know, what is it something that users have or need or desire, and we think we can be an intermediary in providing that service, you know, and whether it's something that users didn't realize they needed before, or so like Uber. 10 years ago, I never realized that I would love to have a car waiting for me downstairs in front of this building in 3 minutes, and I want to see the car as it goes around and gets lost. Like, I never realized that I would like that, and I do. And so then Uber and Grab Taxi are now services that have effectively created something new that people want. Whereas there's other services where you look at the problem and you think, like online classifieds, you go, well, I want to find a place to live, I want to buy a car. Well, 10 years ago, I would have used a newspaper. It's such a cumbersome experience. Often in black and white, you get 3 lines, doesn't have enough information, it doesn't have a map, doesn't have photos. It's just an awful user experience. Whereas why can't I have it all on my phone? I can see what is for sale within 10 minutes here, how much, past transactions. I can see the rating on the landlord and so on and so on. You know, it's just, so the number one place that we start with is never about M&A or IPO. It's about, is there a big problem that we can solve? And so to the iFlix point, the problem that we solved was that we think there's 2 billion people with this, where this has now become your best friend. It's become your living room, it's become your bank, it's become your shopping center. So you said, well, if there's 2 billion people where this becomes, sorry, I'm just seeing your messages coming. When there's 2 billion people that have this one device, it becomes the center of their world, why can't it also be the center of their entertainment world? And when you see that in a lot of the emerging markets, the number one source of YouTube viewership is from the mobile, then I'm able to realize, well, if you're willing to use your mobile phone to stream amateur or quasi-professional content, why wouldn't you use your phone to stream professional content, like Game of Thrones and so on and so forth? So that's where we started. We said, that's the problem. Can we build a business to solve that problem? And we strongly believe we can. Will we IPO that business? Maybe, maybe not. It's you know, to the point earlier, we've already raised the funding that we need without an IPO. So you know, we're very comfortable in the financial position of that business today. Will iFlix do M&A? So to the point earlier, yes. If there's people that help us get market share faster or greater, and the economics of a transaction makes sense, we would definitely consider it.
You're always going to the Australian Stock Exchange. What's the appeal of ASX?
Only 3 times out of 4. So what is the appeal of this? So there's a lunch, I think, hosted by the Australian Stock Exchange, where they will gladly explain to you the benefits far better than I ever could. But one of the things is that, you know, you're building an internet business, you need to have investors who have a high tolerance for risk. Because let's face it, many times you're building businesses where your end state is you either create a very valuable business or you create a business worth 0. There really isn't much in the middle ground. So investors have to understand it's really all or nothing. And so one of the great things that Australia has is it has a lot of both institutional and retail and high net worth investors who are very, very comfortable with making high risk investments. And I think it's part of the legacy of the mining culture, where the mining business was, hey, I have the right to look for gold on that part of the stage. Will you give me $1 million to look for gold? If I find the gold, we all make $100 million. If I don't find gold, you lose your $1 million and I wasted a year of my life. So the Australian financial market has been very developed and very accustomed to these sorts of financial propositions. So I think we were very fortunate to say, well, if you're willing to take high-risk bets on mining, why don't you consider high-risk opportunities in the internet technology space as well?
so you were talking about appetite for risk, right? Was there ever a time, were there tech startups that listed on the ASX that, didn't meet expectations or
Hundreds.
belly up? Did,
I mean, there's lots of tech companies globally, both public and private, that don't deliver the promise.
and that doesn't have any effect on investors' appetite for risk or investors' confidence?
No, I mean, I think to the point earlier, I think if you're an investor that's in the business of making high risk investments, I'm not a VC, so I think VCs can answer that question better. But I think if you're in the business of high risk investing, I think you take a portfolio, you make 10, well, I won't use the word bets, you make 10 investments, and if 2 or 3 deliver, it covers for the fact that maybe the other 7 or 8 don't deliver.
Okay, so I prepared some more personal questions for you. But before we
Okay.
jump into that, I want to go into Insogo.
Sure.
What's happening there? I mean, among your companies seems to be the one
Yep.
that's been struggling. What's happening? What's the plan?
I think what you've seen in the last 5 years. So I mean, when you say struggling, I mean just to clarify, this is a business that will turn over in the last 12 months about 140 million US in sales, 6 offices across the region, 300-400 staff. So I think, I would not use the word struggling. I think what I would say is that the e-commerce environment for companies that are chasing massive at scale is a very highly competitive funding game. I don't think it's a matter of who has the best product, who has the best people. I think it really is a matter of, who's got $500 million in the bank, who's willing to sell products at below cost, who's willing to take 30 days to deliver you products rather than 2 hours. And I think you have this interesting moment in time where Southeast Asian e-commerce at scale, you see the same in India, you see the same in China, is not becoming a battle of the best operators, it's becoming a battle of who has the deepest pockets. And I think it'll be very interesting to see how that starts to shift over the next 12 to 18 months in what we believe is starting to be a more and more challenging environment for fundraising in the foreseeable future.
But also we've seen like a shift in Insogo's strategy, right? Recently, you're starting to move away from the daily deals
Correct.
model.
So one of the things that we're big believers in is and we think the key to every successful internet business is the word pivot. And we believe that if you study every successful tech company, whether it's Apple, Google, Amazon, what they do today is very, very different to the initial business plan that they had on day one. And so we're one of the first people in the world to be data obsessed, and if the data isn't working for us, we will pivot the business. Sometimes it's a 180-degree pivot, sometimes it's a 5-degree pivot. We're big believers in keep iterating and changing and never ever worry about the legacy of your business model to determine the future. So we know that we have a great team. We know that we have the money in the bank to fund what we want to do. We know that there's a huge e-commerce opportunity in Southeast Asia. Like, to my point earlier, there's something like 280 million people that have a phone that are looking for things to buy every day and too lazy to go to the mall for whatever reason. So we think
you're
that
pivoting to what?
so we believe that the services business, or the Groupon model of get $50 off to get a discount at this restaurant for lunch, we think that's an interesting niche business, but we don't think it becomes an at-scale, sizable business in Southeast Asia. We thought that 3 years ago. So we pivoted our thinking, saying, you know what, let's now rebuild an e-commerce business that's very, very focused on the mobile. Whereas mobile, we want the mobile to be 90% of our transactions going forward. We want to be able to give you efficient delivery. We want to guarantee that the sellers are credible. We want to give you a product range that is curated, but at the same time very customized to what you want to need. We want to be able to be selling products on a daily basis with a profitable margin, so we're not selling goods at below margin, because we believe that's just a race to bankruptcy. And we're literally in the middle of a pivot as we speak. So look, we're very excited. We think we've got a great plan. We've got a phenomenal team. We've learned so much in the last 24 months as to what doesn't work, what doesn't work, and it's just a matter of stopping doing what doesn't work, like the Groupon business model, and starting to focus more on what does work.
But aren't you kind of late in the game because Lazada's there, Rocket Internet guys are there already, fast growing.
Okay. So how many people bought something on Lazada in the last 7 days? I don't think we're late to the game.
No, not at all. So there.
How many people bought something in the world in the last 7 days? So everybody bought something, but didn't necessarily buy a lot. So we don't, and so to the point, we don't think it's a winner takes all category. I think e-commerce, if
the pie is growing.
if you spend time in America, you'll see, man, holy cow! Yes, you have Amazon and eBay, but there are vertical websites where you can buy everything you can think of. There's websites where you just buy diapers. There's websites where you just buy bottles of water. There's websites where you just buy mobile phone cases. So we don't think it's a winner takes all category. Yes, there'll be a big category players, but there'll be so many other opportunities in e-commerce that are available for people who are building great teams, have money in the bank, willing to iterate and learn as they go, and just say, look, we're determined. We're going to build a great business.
Okay, so it's a race among guys with the deepest pockets, right? So we're nearing the end of this interview. So for the last questions,
I was waiting for the personal questions.
yeah, we're jumping right into it.
I thought you were going to ask me what I'm doing for lunch.
So lowest and highest points of your career.
Lowest and highest points of my career. Wow. Okay. Okay. So lowest, really only. I mean, we try not to think about it in terms of lows. We try to be very, like I said before, every moment is a learning experience. Every experience is you learn something from it. I mean, if you do a launch and it F's up, you learn something about how to make the launch better next time, right? I mean, we're not going anywhere. We are going to be internet entrepreneurs for the rest of our lives. So every moment is to learn and do it better next time. So there's no lows in terms of, oh, we messed that up, But if I had to pick one, it was probably April 2000.
Okay.
Very, very early days. We had a company called Catcher.com. It was, if you think of Yahoo as a business model, which is probably now the worst business model you could possibly have in the internet world, that's what we were in 1999. And we tried to IPO that business on the Singapore Stock Exchange. We were on a global roadshow. We were on the actual roadshow when NASDAQ crashed. So that was pretty low, thinking that you had 50 million US in the bank at dinner time, and then when you woke up for breakfast, you had no money in the bank and you had 5 million in debt.
Okay.
That was low.
So what was the lesson you learned there? Maybe you can share with us.
I think the lesson that we learned, we learned so many, but one is to summarize is that, if we had been 1 week faster in our fundraising process, we would have IPO'd, we would have raised $3 million. So anyway, so I think the point is, it just reinforces within our DNA as an organization, as an entrepreneur, is that you have to execute really, really fast. You just, these are, and I'm sure all of us, you're involved in businesses that are growing at anywhere from 30% to 200% a year. I mean, this is not traditional. Traditional businesses grow at anywhere from 5 to 15% a year. If they have growth in the teens, they consider that a fabulous year. So when you're growing at astronomical yearly rates of growth, you have to move fast. You just hire fast, launch fast, start your marketing fast, decide on your brand fast, determine whether you're going to hire person A or B or both. Like you just cannot spend a lot of time pondering. You just have to execute rapidly, make mistakes, learn, and just keep iterating.
I'm sure a lot of the guys here are mulling an IPO or looking at, they want to get acquired at some point. What's your advice for them? What tips can you give them? Okay,
I would say, really just don't focus on the end in mind. Like, I'll give you an example of the iProperty exit. It was seen in the press as a big, glorious exit. It's actually not an exit. We're still shareholders in the business and very happy to be shareholders in the business. I think it just really comes down to pick a problem that you're passionate to solve for whatever personal reason, and just try to be the biggest, baddest, fastest organization in fixing and solving that problem for the consumers. And if you are that person and you are that organization, you will create a valuable business, and someone one day will want to buy that business. Whether you want to sell that business to them or not is a decision for you to make at that point in time. But I think just be the biggest, the best, the fastest, as fast as you can.
Okay. Thank you so much for your
Cool.
time, Patrick.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.